Hello, I'm Karen Randall, Curriculum Team Leader for Music and Music Technology here at Ralph Allen, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the EdXL Music Technology A-level course that we run here at Ralph Allen. So, if you choose to do the A-level in Music Technology, the real focus is on the study of popular and commercial music from the 20th century onwards. And during your study of this style of music, we really develop your recording skills. We look at computer-based music composition. You'll develop your knowledge of music technology and the advances in those technologies during the 20th and 21st centuries and the implications that it's had around how music has developed. We will make sure that we develop your theory alongside that study of that music, and you'll be looking at an understanding of the technology equipment and how we might apply that. So the whole course has some areas of study that underpin all of the practical and theoretical work. And you'll find actually there's quite a bit of crossover between some of the different components that you're going to find out about. And those three areas that we look at in particular are the recording and production techniques for both corrective and creative purposes, the principles of sound and audio technology, and the development of recording and production technology. So there are four components that comprise the A-level. The first of these is a really practical hands-on unit where you are recording, basically taking on the role of a sound engineer. The second is a technology-based composition where you are using logic to create, manipulate, and structure a composition. The third component is a listening and analysis unit. There's an examination paper and you listen to various different styles of music and answer questions around the technology and the styles. And then the final component, producing and analysing. This is actually a practical exam where you are actually given different elements of music to combine within a practical setting to create a final mix. So if we look at some of these components in a little bit more detail. So the first component, the recording then, it's an externally assessed exam. And you produce a recording, and the exam board send us a list of 10 artists that we can choose from to record. Examples in the past have included people like Beyonce, David Bowie, REM, Stereophonics, Bruno Mars. So students get a chance to think about the kind of musical style that they're happy to work in, perhaps even the instrumentalists that they have at their fingertips who can come and record for them. And what we then do is we create an arrangement of your chosen song, and then you have to record it as if you were doing this in a sound studio. So there are various things that we have to include that are compulsory. So you have to know how to record a drum kit, also how to record bass guitar and electric guitar, and obviously the vocals, both lead and backing. And then you can add some additional layers in there as well, which could be an acoustic melodic instrument, an acoustic guitar, keyboards, etc. And the areas that they are assessing when they're listening to your final recording is how well you've captured those instruments, how well you've then processed those, and how well you've then finally mixed the track. So here are a couple of just very short examples of previous student work, so you get an idea of the sorts of things that you'd be creating.
If it's true what they say, if my love is gone for good, they can take this heart away. They can take this flesh apart. Take my mouth to kiss them out. Take my tongue to song of praise. Take my arms that used to reach out in the dark ocean. If it's true what they say, I'll be on my way. If it's true what they say, there's nothing to be done. Drinking in the morning sun, blinking in the morning sun.
So hopefully that'll just give you a little bit of an idea of what the final product is going to be when you are taking this particular recording component. And we have a real wide variety of all sorts of different microphone options, from ribbon microphones to dynamic microphones to condenser microphones, so that you can choose the right type of microphone, which is part of the thing around the capture. And that's one of the most important things, is how well you capture the sound before you then process and mix it. Component 2, the technology-based composition. This is where the students have a real opportunity to get really creative with using Logic. And there are some briefs that are provided by the exam board as a result of this. And one of them is video-based, so you usually get a short video clip which you've got to try and create the music that goes alongside it. There's often a poem or a quote which you can then base a composition around, or sometimes a theme. So we've had ocean themes or political themes, that kind of thing, and then you can sort of take your ideas and create a narrative around that. The things that you're going to demonstrate and you'll learn about in your sort of study of this type of composition is how to create your own synths, how to manipulate audio samples, how you can be creative in your use of effects, and how you can perhaps use automation, both in a live context but also in a recorded context. So a couple of examples. This is from a brief that was called Health Fanatic, and they were given a poem, and then they created their composition based around the ideas in that poem.
As time ticks away, you never stop, for to slack is to pay. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the children say, a one-man war against decay. Some may dance, and some may play, but he is a health fanatic, for he does it his way.
And a different style.
This activity requires the many technical disciplines of highly qualified specialists.
Hey, yeah, you gotta run, high octane, fresh FA. You are the one, you are the one. You lie to yourself, you say you're done. You gotta run, high octane, fresh FA. You are the one, you lie to yourself, you say you're done. Health fanatic, work automatic, mechanical muscles on top of the planet. Remember.
So that's just some examples there of some of the past students' work that they've created. And the way that it's assessed then, they look at how you have used your skills to create your synthesis and manipulate your sounds, but also responding to the brief, so how well you've created it around the theme, or how well you've assigned the sounds to the video, etc. And then they also look at the kind of compositional side, so melody, harmony, rhythm, texture, form and structure. So there's an element of making sure that you can compose musically as well as using the technology effectively. What goes alongside components 1 and 2 is a logbook, and it's a kind of a written document really that records the process of creating your work. So you have to explain the equipment that you've used, the way that you've captured your audio, any processing and mixing techniques that you've gone through. And what this does is highlights to the examiner the key features of your work, and demonstrates that you understand the application of those different techniques and processes. The third component is a listening exam, which you take in year 13, and it's an hour and a half long, and it's divided into 2 sections. It's called listening and analysing. So it starts with 4 written questions based on an unfamiliar commercial popular music recording. I'll show you some examples of the questions in a second. The second is 2 essay-based questions, one where you compare the production techniques on 2 different tracks. And the second is based on 1 recording, and it asks students to consider the wider context of that recording in the sort of musical history of the use of technology to record and compose tracks. And they are based around those areas of study that I explained at the start. Here's some example questions of the sort of short answers in section A. So again, identifying things like instruments, describing the panning technique that's been used, thinking about how the capture has been happened and the processing that might have been applied on particular tracks. So what we've done is we've studied all of these different styles of music, perhaps not necessarily these bands in particular, but certainly looking at the process of recording and mixing throughout the periods of popular music history. Then here's a couple of examples of the kind of longer essay type questions where you're comparing the production techniques or evaluating the impact that a particular technological aspect has had on musical developments. The final component is a written and practical exam, which is called Producing and Analysing, and it's a 2 hour 15-minute exam. They work with unedited audio and MIDI materials provided by the exam board within our DAW, which is Logic, and they're required to demonstrate a series of different production skills, applying an EQ, producing a final mix, editing out unnecessary sound, etc. And so there are 5 questions in the first section of the exam where they have to do some written but also practical responses based on those audio and MIDI materials. And then the final part is an essay question based on a specific effect or process or music technology hardware unit, and we'll show some examples in a moment. Here's some typical kind of section A questions. So we're looking at quantized values in the piano roll, being able to apply a drum part and recreate a drum part in the piano roll editor so it sounds like a track that they've been given. And then the longer answer questions here, this is what they're being asked to do, is to create their final mix. So use compression, apply a filter, do some double tracking, recreate an effect they can hear, applying reverb, obviously, and then creating that final balance in the mix. And they're doing this under exam conditions. In section B, this is an example of the question. So we've got here a guide that shows the routing and kind of mixing and compression and EQ that's been put on a drum kit recording. And they're saying it's a rock recording. So is this appropriate? Is it suitable? Have they panned things correctly? Are they using an appropriate level of compression? What's their EQ like? Have they got their faders correctly linked up, etc.? And so evaluating that. What do our current student think?
Hi, my name's Tom. I'm doing music tech at Ralph Allen. It's just really good, you know. You learn how to do loads of things. Like you learn a bit about the history of music, which is quite cool. You know how to like make your own sounds, like synths and things. You know how to mix things like sound engineering and things like that. And like a part of it that I've really found is like you develop your musical ear like loads. Like you end up hearing things that you wouldn't normally hear. And you know, you can like suggest improvements to songs that you really like. How you can make it sound better and stuff.
Hi, I'm Sky, and I'm studying music tech at Ralph Allen, and I'm really enjoying it because you know it helps us get to grips with different technologies like Logic that we use to like record all our things, and it's sort of you get to see different aspects of it, and it sort of like gives you like the production side, and we also learn about the history and also the like actual miking instruments and recording things like in the real world.
So the entry requirements there. We would require at least a grade 5 in GCSE music, but we have accepted students onto the course who haven't had the opportunity perhaps to take GCSE music if you can demonstrate practical and theoretical skills at the equivalent level of a grade 5 in GCSE. This is assessed on a case-by-case basis on application and often through a portfolio of work which students may have been producing with their own technology at home. So we've got a real good history of successful examination results here at Ralph Allen, ranging from getting those students those really, really top grades. But we also understand that, you know, students are going to achieve it right across the range of the A-level subjects, and we support our perhaps our lower ability students in that sense too. A large proportion of our students have continued to study music in higher education. Some of them are now taking film music composition degrees or the studying of acoustics or taking a degree in music production. It sits really comfortably with any arts, media or science course or technology course. And because of the creativity that is needed within this course, you will become a really creative and very confident individual who will be able to contribute to the wider community of whatever institution you decide to go on to next. So what career prospects might you have if you choose to further study music technology? Well, you could be a producer, record producer, sound engineer, sound technicians, anything in broadcasting, sound design, film, video. Obviously, you know, perhaps you're still doing a lot of music performance alongside that. So as well as studying music technology creatively, actually using the computer, you might also be a performer yourself, composer, acoustician, even a teacher. So if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at school. My email address is on screen there. Thank you.